Imagine for a moment that the version of Jesus you were taught your entire life was incomplete. Not false, but incomplete. Imagine that for centuries, a deeper truth has been buried in plain sight, hidden between the lines behind layers of dogma, politics, and power. What if the true teachings of Jesus, the ones that could awaken your divine essence and unlock your connection with the source, were deliberately concealed? Think about it. Why would the most powerful institution on earth, the church, go to such great lengths to control the narrative of a humble carpenter from Nazareth? In this video we are going to uncover what they didn't want you to know. The teachings that were declared heresy. The gospels that were burned. The message that could set the soul free. And most importantly, the final truth, the most powerful of all, that may change the way you see reality forever. To understand what was hidden, we must first understand what was revealed. The four canonical Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, form the official narrative of Jesus' life. But early Christian history reveals something startling. There were dozens of Gospels circulating in the first few centuries after Jesus' death. Some of these texts were radically different from what ended up in the Bible. In the dusty caves of Nag Hammadi, Egypt in 1945, a collection of ancient scrolls was unearthed. Among them was a book that would shake the foundations of Christian scholarship, the Gospel of Thomas. Unlike the canonical Gospels, Thomas contains no miracles, no virgin birth, no crucifixion, and no resurrection. Instead, it presents Jesus as a master of wisdom, a revealer of hidden knowledge, speaking in cryptic sayings meant for deep inner reflection. One of the most famous passages reads, "If you bring forth what is within you, what you bring forth will save you. If you do not bring forth what is within you, what you do not bring forth will destroy you." This is a mystic, a guide into the inner kingdom, a teacher of self-realization. He does not point to external rituals or intermediaries. He points to you. This gospel, along with others like the Gospel of Mary Magdalene and the Gospel of Philip, was deemed too dangerous. Why? Because it empowered the individual. It taught that divine truth was not held in the hands of priests or locked inside temples but resided in the heart of every human being. By the 4th century under Emperor Constantine, Christianity transformed from a persecuted spiritual movement into the official religion of the Roman Empire. With power came politics. The Council of Nicaea in 325 was a strategic consolidation of doctrine. Gospels that didn't align with the political and hierarchical interests of the new imperial church were labeled heretical, blasphemous, or Gnostic, a word that would become synonymous with dangerous lies. But what is Gnosticism really? The Gnostics were early Christian mystics, seekers of gnosis, a Greek word meaning inner knowledge or direct experience of the divine. They believed that salvation came from awakening to the divine spark within. They taught that this world was a veil, a kind of spiritual sleep, and Jesus was the awakener. He was a mirror of what we truly are. Ask yourself, why would the church suppress a message that teaches self-empowerment, inner divinity, and direct connection with God? Could it be that such a message would dismantle the need for religious hierarchy? Would people still need mediators, rituals, and confessions if they knew that the kingdom of heaven was within them? The Gospel of Thomas says, "The kingdom is inside of you and it is outside of you." When you come to know yourselves, then you will become known, and you will realize that you are the children of the living Father. This is radical. This is liberating. This is the forbidden gospel. But it goes deeper still. When we dive into the Gospel of Mary Magdalene, we discover something even more controversial. Here Mary is portrayed as a beloved disciple, perhaps even the closest to Jesus. In one scene, the male disciples question why Jesus loved her more than them. Peter, the future leader of the church, resents her insight and Jesus defends her, saying she has understood more than you all. This gospel speaks of a spiritual path where the soul ascends through layers of illusion, shedding attachments, fears, and false identities until it merges back with the divine. Why was this hidden? Because it suggests that Mary Magdalene was a spiritual equal, a bearer of sacred knowledge. In a patriarchal system where spiritual authority had to be male, this could not stand. And yet these truths refused to die, buried in jars, hidden in sand, whispered through centuries, waiting for a time like now when humanity would be ready to listen again. Have you ever felt like something was missing from the version of Jesus you were taught? Have you felt the stirring, the sense that there is more to the story? Because this is just the beginning. If you're discovering truths about spirituality that challenge everything you were taught and want to continue this journey of awakening, please subscribe. We're uncovering the hidden wisdom deliberately kept from humanity. Your support helps us reach more seekers ready for these revelations. Now let's continue deeper. They tried to erase it. They tried to burn it. But truth, especially divine truth, has a way of surviving. After the suppression of the forbidden Gospels and the rise of institutional Christianity, the true spiritual teachings of Jesus did not vanish. They flowed underground, hidden in the veins of secret mystical traditions, protected by mystics, sages and seekers who knew that some truths are too sacred to be controlled by power. The essence of these lost teachings began to echo again in movements like the Desert Fathers, in the hermits and ascetics who withdrew from cities to seek God in silence, in the wilderness and in the depths of their own souls. They taught that true communion was found in inward transformation. Later, in the medieval period, echoes of the forbidden gospel found life in the hearts of Christian mystics like Meister Eckhart, who dared to speak of the divine spark in every soul. He wrote, "The eye with which I see God is the same eye with which God sees me." For this the Church accused him of heresy. The suppressed teachings also re-emerged through the Cathars, a mysterious spiritual group in southern France during the 12th century. The Cathars believed in a dualistic universe, a world of light and a world of shadow. They claimed that the material world was a trap, a creation of a false god, the demiurge, a theme deeply present in many Gnostic texts. According to them, Jesus came to remind us that we do not belong to this world of illusion, that we are light temporarily imprisoned in matter. The Cathars rejected the authority of the Church, denied the need for sacraments, and elevated women to positions of spiritual leadership. To the Church they were a threat beyond comprehension. In 1209, Pope Innocent III launched a full-scale crusade against fellow Christians. The Cathars were hunted, tortured, and burned at the stake. Entire towns were massacred to wipe them out. But they carried with them a whisper of the forbidden gospel, and even in death their truth endured. Let that sink in. A message so powerful, so liberating, that the might of empires was deployed to silence it. And yet it endured. Through symbols, through coded manuscripts, through hidden teachings embedded in art, architecture, and oral tradition, this ancient wisdom survived. It flowed like a secret river through time, surfacing again in the Hermetic texts where teachings such as above, so below, reflect the very principles that Jesus whispered in the Gospel of Thomas. It emerged in the alchemical traditions of the Renaissance, where the transformation of lead into gold symbolized spiritual transmutation, the awakening of the divine essence within. Even in modern times, Carl Jung recognized the depth of Gnostic wisdom. He wrote extensively about the divine self, the archetype of the Christ within, and how ancient Gnostic texts preserve truths about the psyche that the Church ignored or rejected. He once said, "The Gnostics were the first depth psychologists." Is it starting to become clear? The Church hid the gospel because it was too true, too powerful, too awakening. Because a person who truly knows their divine nature cannot be controlled. A person who realizes they are a fragment of God no longer bows to fear, no longer needs intercessors, no longer participates in systems of guilt and shame masquerading as salvation. And now we must speak of perhaps the greatest heresy of all. The kingdom of God is not a place you go to when you die. It is not a realm reserved for the pious or the punished. According to the forbidden teachings, the kingdom is a state of consciousness, a return to unity. In the Gospel of Thomas, Jesus says, "The kingdom of the Father is spread out upon the earth and people do not see it." He is talking about now, about presence, about a reality hidden behind the veil of illusion, accessible through awakening. And this is where the path turns inward. The forbidden gospel was about you, about your soul, about your own sacred path back to the source. Because within you burns a spark of divine intelligence, a voice that whispers when the world is silent, a knowing that there is more, that you are more. And that whisper is the call of your original nature, the part of you that never forgot. Have you ever felt deep inside that the truth is something you remember? So, you are awakening. Many mystics have said that the greatest sin is to forget who you are. The Forbidden Gospel teaches that redemption is about remembering your divine origin. And now you may begin to understand why the Church buried these texts. A population awakened to their divinity no longer fears hell, no longer begs for forgiveness, no longer depends on external authority for salvation. They become sovereign. They become whole. And that is the message Jesus truly came to bring. A message of awakening, of unity, of love. A love that begins with knowing that you were never separate from God to begin with. Are you feeling it? The veil is lifting. In the next chapter we will explore how this sacred knowledge influenced other traditions, how it lives on in esoteric schools, and how you can begin to walk the path Jesus truly laid out. And finally, we will uncover the ultimate truth, the final key, the one revelation the Church could never bury, the one that will change everything. Throughout history, truth has never been entirely destroyed. It only changes form. What the Church buried, mystics preserved. What empires suppressed, seekers remembered. The forbidden gospel of Jesus did not die in the fires of the Inquisition or fade in the silence of forgotten caves. It transformed. It hid in plain sight behind symbols, rituals, and myths that still echo its original light. If you look closely, you'll see it everywhere. In the sacred geometry of ancient cathedrals. In the paintings of Leonardo da Vinci. In the verses of Rumi. In the tarot, the Kabbalah, the teachings of Sufis, yogis, and Zen monks. They all whisper the same secret. You are not separate from the divine. You are a vessel of it. These traditions, though outwardly different, carry within them the same hidden thread, a sacred transmission that bypasses dogma and speaks directly to the soul. In the Kabbalistic tree of life, we see the soul's journey from the material realm to the divine crown. Each step represents an internal transformation, a remembering of your divine essence. This echoes the very teachings found in the Gospel of Mary, where the soul ascends through levels of awareness, shedding illusion and fear. In Hermeticism we read, "As within, so without. As above, so below." A perfect mirror of Jesus' message in the Gospel of Thomas, where the kingdom is both inside and outside, waiting to be perceived by those with eyes to see. In Gnostic text, Sophia, the divine wisdom, is the feminine counterpart of the Christ. She represents the soul's descent into matter and her eventual return to the pleroma, the fullness of God. It's a cosmic myth, but it's also your myth, your story. The soul forgot and Jesus came to remind. Why did the Church suppress this? Because it places you at the center of the sacred story as a sleeping God remembering who they are. We're approaching the most powerful revelation. And if this is awakening something ancient within you and you want to explore the deepest mysteries of consciousness and divinity, please subscribe. We're going where most spiritual channels fear to tread. Your support allows us to continue revealing what was hidden. Now for the final truth. Ask yourself, what kind of world would we live in if every person knew this? What would happen if we truly believed that the sacred is woven into our very being? The implications are revolutionary. You begin to see that salvation is transformation. You begin to realize that the cross is an archetype of death and rebirth, the crucifixion of the ego and the resurrection of the true self. And now we must speak of the role that fear has played in keeping this truth hidden. The Church constructed a system where fear became the gatekeeper of heaven. Fear of sin, fear of hell, fear of questioning, fear of self. But Jesus said, "Be not afraid," over and over again. He called people out of fear and into love. He called them to wake up. In the Gospel of Philip we read, "Ignorance is a slave. Knowledge is freedom. If we gain the truth, we shall make ourselves free." This gospel does not point to external beliefs. It calls for inner revelation. That is what gnosis means, direct experiential awareness of the divine. And now you may wonder, if these teachings are true, where are they today? The answer is they never left. They live in the hearts of the mystics, in the practices of meditation, contemplation, and inner silence. They live in you if you are willing to remember. Consider the words of Jesus from the Gospel of Thomas once more. The one who seeks should not stop seeking until he finds. When he finds, he will be troubled. When he is troubled, he will marvel and he will reign over all. This is the journey of awakening. First comes the seeking, the hunger for something more. Then comes the trouble, the unraveling of everything you thought was true. And finally the marvel, the realization that you were never separate from the source, that the treasure you sought was within you all along. But this path requires courage to step outside the comfort of tradition. It requires silence to hear the whisper of the soul. It requires death of the false self, the persona, the mask, the lies we were taught to wear. And that is why the forbidden gospel still matters. Because in a world of noise, it invites you into stillness. In a world of fear, it invites you into love. In a world of hierarchy, it reminds you that you are sovereign, a fragment of the divine, a seed of eternity walking in time. And this knowledge is meant to be lived. When you wake up to your inner divinity, you begin to see the divine in all beings. You become a light because you remember you are light. The message of Jesus, when stripped of centuries of distortion, is a call to oneness, to return, to remember. Let me ask you again, what would happen if humanity remembered this? If every person realized that heaven is a state of being, that God is the very essence of love flowing through every breath, that the path to salvation is paved with remembrance? You don't need to wait for death to meet God. You only need to wake up. And that's what the forbidden gospel has been whispering for centuries. The forbidden gospel has always been more than a set of ancient words. It is a mirror reflecting the part of you that religion, society, and fear try to make you forget. And now, after everything we've uncovered, one final revelation remains. A truth so profound, so liberating, that it strikes at the very heart of the illusion we have lived under for centuries. It is this: you are the living gospel. Yes, you. The teachings of Jesus were never meant to become rigid doctrines sealed in stone and guarded by institutions. They were meant to awaken the divine spark in every soul. Jesus was pointing to what lies within you. He said, "You will do greater works than these." He didn't say that to inspire worship. He said it to call you into remembrance, to remind you that you are a soul on fire, a direct emanation of the divine cloaked in forgetfulness. And this is the ultimate truth the church feared the most, that Christ is not a name. Christ is a state of consciousness, a level of awareness where you no longer see separation, no longer act from fear, no longer seek salvation outside yourself. Instead, you awaken to the realization that you and the Father are one, that the Spirit dwells within the sanctuary of your being. This is the heart of the hidden gospel. In Gnostic texts, Christ is the inner logos, the divine word, the light of awareness that lives in every human. Jesus was the embodiment of it, but he came to awaken others to the same light. This is why he said in the Gospel of Thomas, "Whoever drinks from my mouth will become like me. I myself shall become that person, and the hidden things will be revealed to them." Do you see? To truly follow Christ is to become the image, to walk the same inner path, to embody the same love, the same clarity, the same unity with the source. You are here to become Christ. That is the radical, transformative message that was buried. Because the moment you realize this, everything changes. You begin to live as a revealer, as a knower. You begin to shine from alignment with your truest nature. But make no mistake, awakening is a path of fire, a death and a rebirth, the burning away of illusion layer by layer until only truth remains. The truth that you were never separate, that you were never broken, that the divine never left you. It only waited for you to remember. This is the mystery hidden in the symbols of resurrection. A living resurrection that happens within you when the ego dies and the divine self rises. This is the true meaning of being born again, awakening to your eternal nature beyond name and form. And now you may understand why this message was forbidden. Because it dissolves control. Because it ends fear. Because it unites rather than divides. If every soul knew they were divine, what power would religion hold? If every human embodied the Christ within, what need would there be for institutions built on guilt, shame, and separation? None. And so this message was buried because it was true. But the time of forgetting is ending. Right now, as you listen, something ancient is awakening in you. A resonance, a knowing. A remembrance that you are the temple, the priest, the altar, the flame. That the gospel is a living transmission echoing through your breath, your heartbeat, your soul. And now the choice is yours. You can turn away, return to the comfort of inherited beliefs, and let this be just another video. Or you can follow the call. The call to seek within, to question boldly, to shed the old skins and step into the sacred fire of transformation, to begin living as what you truly are, a being of light, a child of the infinite, a carrier of divine purpose. This is a call to go deeper than tradition, to find the living truth that no book can contain and no priest can give, the truth that has always been with you, waiting in silence. So let me ask you for the final time, what if the gospel of Jesus was never meant to be a religion but a revolution of consciousness? What if his crucifixion was a symbol of what happens to the soul when it dares to awaken? And what if the real second coming is the Christ arising in you? You see, the church may have hidden the gospel, but it could never kill it, because the forbidden gospel was never in their hands to begin with. It has always been in yours. And now you remember.